Hello everyone. In this session, I would like to discuss about ngFor structural directive in Angular. First, create an Angular application and then run it. Now, first of all, why we go for ngFor? By using ngFor structural directive, we can iterate an element based on some data. For example, I have one requirement, list of some players. There has one order list is there. I'm going to prepare the list of players Sachin and Dhoni, two players I prepared. If you want to add one more list item, you can add here. If you want to delete, you can remove from here. Every time if you want to add or delete, you have to do the modifications in my DOM element. It's not a recommended one. So that you can do one thing. First of all, this list item you can iterate. How many times? Two times you can iterate. One for Sachin, another one for Dhoni. First of all, represent the data representation for this particular list items are what? Two players, Sachin and Dhoni. This is my data. This is my element. So the data representation for these elements are like Sachin and Dhoni. So come here, create one variable to represent the data. The variable name is like players. It's like an array of strings. Here you can write like Sachin and Dhoni. Now these players has two player names. Using the two player names, I want to iterate this list item, one for Sachin, one for Dhoni. Then that time you can go with ngFor directive. ngFor is a structural directive. Which data you want me to iterate, that data you can take it. From that data, every time it is going to give the first element, second element like that. Hold that data with one variable like players. First time my players gives first element from the players, my ngFor gives the first element and that first element holds inside the players variable, player variable. Now that player variable you can render here. Second iteration, the players contains the second element is like Dhoni. That Dhoni value is going to assign to my player variable. That variable data you can render here. So by using ngFor, this li you are going to iterate based on this data, and once you get the data and place the data inside this li. Now come here. Now say this Sachin and Dhoni. If you want to add one more player, there is no need to touch. There is no need to touch your DOM. Simply you can add one more player here. Now my ngFor iterate li three times like this. Now, if you observe here, you iterate which data, one list item you iterated based on which data, a array of strings or not. Based on the array of objects also, you can iterate the data. Based on array of objects also, you can iterate the data. Now, let's take one simple example. I have an array of objects are there. First of all, create an array of objects. My data. You can put like any array of objects I want to create. Now this array of objects I want to use to iterate some element. Which element means create one table. Create one table. Inside the table, one row is there. That row, first row represents heading. The heading is like name. The next one is like runs. The next row onwards, it's like my data, table data. Inside the table data, the first TD is like Sachin. The next TD is like 20,000. Same like this, place these two TDs inside one more TR. This is like Dhoni and this is like 10,000. Now my table ready. You can give the border. My border is like 2 pixels. If you observe here, my name runs are like a static. If you want to add one more player, you should have to add one more. That means if you want to add a player or remove a player, every time you need to touch this DOM or not. Instead of doing the changes in my DOM, first of all, represent this data in one variable. Just prepare one variable with this data and iterate with that data, iterate this tr, iterate this tr. With Sachin and 20,000, iterate this tr. Dhoni and 10,000, iterate this tr. Is nothing but the same tr you have to prepare for different players. Okay. Now, how we can represent the data? Sachin, Dhoni. It is not like this. It's not like this. Only Sachin, Dhoni. Here you have some data about Sachin. We have some data about Dhoni. If you want to represent something about the particle, then you have to go with what? Object. So that if you want to represent the Sachin data, you have to create one object for Sachin. If you want to represent the Dhoni data, you have to create one object for Dhoni. How many players are there? Top level? 2 players. That means this is like a array. 2 players is going to represent. One object is going to represent your Sachin data. One object is going to represent your Dhoni data. Okay, how we can write an object? My object contains a properties. My property is nothing but a key value pair. So that this is one property, this is one property, and this one more property. This is like one more property. Now, using this data, you have to prepare one row for Sachin, one row for Dhoni, so that you have to iterate the TRs. Now come here. This is the TR. You can iterate it by using ngFor with which data? With my players list or data. This is the data. In this data, every time you can get what? One object. Okay, it says such an object or Dhoni object or whatever it is. Okay, let's take this object. This object contains what? Two properties. One property used for what? To get the name. Another property is used for what? To get the runs. Now come here and check. It gives me something error. What is that error? Just data does not exist. Where is this data? This is the data you didn't save, so let's save it. Now since if you want to add one more player, no need to touch the DOM. You can add one more object here. My name is like Kohli and my runs are like 15,000. Now come here, see this, my Kohli 15,000 added or not. This is the way you can iterate an elements based on the data. The data may be an array of strings, maybe an array of objects. Okay. Now, in the ngFor only, I want to discuss about a TrackBy. TrackBy is the problem. TrackBy we are going to use to track an elements. Okay. How we are going to use this TrackBy means I want to take one simple scenario. First of all, there has two lists you preparing. Okay, one is like array of elements, array of strings. Another one is like array of objects, array of objects. Now here, I need one button. I need one button. The button name is like load li. Okay, new li, new list item. Here also one more button. Here also one more button. The button is like add, okay, new row. Like this, two buttons are there. Now, if I click on this button, I want to add one more new li. If I click on this one, I want to add one more new row. so that handle the click events for both. Function load new li is the method. Here click function load or add new row. This is one method. First of all, you can declare those methods. You can define those methods. Load new li. The next one is what? Add new row. Perfect. Think by default here there has two players are there. By default. I have two players. If I click on this particular button, I want to add one more player like this. This dot my players equals to like this. In the past, my players like only two. Now at the time of clicking on the button, one more player added. Same like this here also. In the past, I have only two players are there. At the time of clicking on this particular button, okay, now I want to assign like three players. Now if you come here, see the functionality. Two list items are there. This is my button. Click on this button. One more added or not? If I click on this one more added or not? Now come to our discussion. Where exactly the TrackBy we are going to use? I said like TrackBy is used for optimize the performance. Okay, to avoid the re-renderings. First of all, where exactly the re-rendering is happened, can you check it? After that, we can prevent that re-rendering by using TrackBy. First of all, come here. If you observe here the app root, this is my two LIs loaded. Now, if I click on this one, observe here. If I click on this one more new LI added. If I click on again also, okay, see this, the re-rendering is not happened. Okay, so here there is no issues. First time if you click, one more new li added so that it is visible. New li rendered. Say this here, new li rendered. If I click again and again also, there is no problem. Already li's are there. Re-rendering is not happened. When my data is like what? To prepare these list items, you are using the data like an array of elements. Okay. Now another one is what? Another one is an array of objects. Already how many rows are there? 1 2 3. One row for header, two rows for data. If I click one more, now see this, the total table is going to re-render again or not? See this, all trs are going to re-render or not? Okay, table re-render is nothing but these trs are rendered. That's the reason parent also showing like this. If you see this, my three TRs every time it is going to render or not. Okay, not like LI. See this. If you see this LI, click any times. See this. There is no re-rendering, nothing is happening. But here it's happening or not. TR every time it's loaded. Here only three rows are there. Okay, there is no performance impact. Okay, we are not able to see the performance impact. But there has thousands of rows are there. Every time it is going to re-render, then that time there may be chance of break that application. Every time thousands of rows are going to re-rendering, my application got maybe stuck. So that how we can avoid this problem? This problem, re-rendering problem, is occurred not for array of elements. If you render the array of elements, it's like element is like a unique identity that is loaded or not, it's going to check. But if it is like an array of objects, that object contains which data, we don't know. So that object level, every time it is going to re-rendering. So how we can avoid, how we can prevent this re-rendering? If you are using the array of objects data to iterate the elements, how we can means, very simple thing. Here this is the data array of objects, right? Here you can write like track by, just you have to specify the unique identity for this one. It's already loaded, no need to re-render it like that. Track by, here you can give like one function track by, one function name you can give it. Now this function is going to call, this function is going to call every time by passing that row index and that row index always like a number, my row is always like an object. Okay, now you can give the unique identity. Okay, so that can we return the index from here, can we return the index from here. Now if you observe, this is my table, two rows. If I click on this one, say this one row added. If I click again, see re-rendering is not happened. Why? Because first row 0th index row loaded, no need to touch. Second one, third one, every row has their unique identity or not. The problem where we face means, if you use the data like array of elements, no problem. If you use like the data is like an array of objects, then the time we can see this re-rendering issue. By using TrackBy, we can avoid this problem, we can prevent this re-rendering. Thanks guys, thanks for watching.